Hello and welcome to Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandal. On her first visit with us, Gillian Andrews shared her novel, Gift of the Loon. A lovely book it was. And recently, Gillian released her second novel, The Healing Stones, which sheds light on the lost dreams and struggles of women in the 1950s and their right to equality. And there's much more. Welcome back to Scribes and Songsters.
Pleasure to be here again.
Oh,
Actually, this is my third book.
Your third?
My third. My first one was River of the Stick Wavers, set in the French River back in the 60s.
Right. Okay. So I thought maybe what we could do off the top is for you to just sort of give us a little summary of those two books, just to remind people what they're about. The Gift of the Loons.
Gift of the Loon. It's about a young woman set in 1911 in Toronto, and she wants to be an artist, which would have been difficult at that time because, women were supposed to stay home and have babies. Mm-hmm. And but against her parents' wishes, she goes off to Toronto and studies art, and she meets Tom Thompson, and they spend the summer together painting Algonquin Pike, so a lot of local color there, and fall in love, and of course, things don't work out for them, and she has to work her way through that. And plus, she has to find a place for herself in the art world of that time, which would have been difficult.
And it is so well written and a great read.
Oh, thank you.
The River of the Stick Wavers.
That's right. Well, River of the Stick Wavers is actually the French River. During the late 1800s, when Champlain was moving around and the Jesuit missionaries were around, the Jesuit missionaries, they would be carrying their crosses. So when they get out of their canoes, they hold their crosses up, and so the native people call them stick wavers.
Oh,
so that's why the French River is called River of the Stick Wavers. So I thought it would be a really great title. This one's about a woman who becomes a widow prematurely, and she decides to go to the French River and stay in a cottage by herself because she wants to figure out who she is now that her husband is gone and how she's going to move forward. And I think that a lot of women, no one asks them what it is that they want, and then particularly in the 60s when this novel was set, it was always about what the husband wants. And so women couldn't make decisions on their own. They didn't know what they wanted because they never thought about it. And now she has a chance to do that.
Okay, and that brings us to The Healing Stones.
Yeah.
Now, you did the 1800s, the early 1920s, and now we're in the 1950s. Why did you choose the 1950s? Was there a deliberate reason to do it?
That's an interesting question. The 1950s. Well, I think it was a time when. Well, it was after the Second World War, right? And like, and the story is about a woman who was having difficulty having children. So after the Second World War, there were so many losses, and so it was when we had, a lot of babies were being born in the 50s.
The baby boomers.
And so that was the expectation of women. And so here she is, a woman who can't have children.
Did you have an inspiration for it?
For
the book?
It's funny. I came about it in a roundabout way because initially I wanted to write about Rachel. So I wanted to write about a quirky character. And, Rachel, is tall and gangly, and she works on a bookmobile, and she's a little clumsy, and she's always, spouting off information about ephemera, to fill in conversations. And then I thought, well, gee, who could befriend this woman? It had to be somebody kind. Somebody nice. So I figured, who could be kinder than a vicar's wife?
Oh, wow.
So then I introduced Cynthia. And so I had to have a background for her. But as I was writing, Cynthia started to take over.
Isn't that the coolest thing that happens?
It really is, yes. And so I let her. Yes. So that happens a lot. And so you have to trust the creative process and just go and see where it takes you. And so Rachel became the sidekick.
Right.
Yes. And what a fun sidekick she turned out to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And it's interesting because she's such an interesting sidekick. She could have been a main character.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So maybe there's a story about her eventually. The cast of characters, I mean, they're really an interesting cast.
Thank you.
And Cynthia certainly is, because she has all these struggles. And the first one, when we sort of first meet her, there's a foreshadowing through the thread that starts through it. And so there's the struggle between her independence and her being a vicar's wife.
Yes, yes.
How much did you know about someone being a vicar's wife?
Well, that's interesting. Yes. I had to ask around. I talked to my girlfriend, Jo, and I knew she knew a minister's wife. And so she connected me with this woman. And so we had a conversation by email, what that was like. And did you have to be involved in the vicar's world all the time? And she said, well, she really couldn't be, because if they were going to afford a house, she had to work, and she worked as a nurse. And plus, she gave me some inside tips. How sometimes some of the women in the congregation were kind of cozying up to her husband. And, how sometimes she'd have to go with him when she'd go to meet some of these women. So, and some of those ideas came up. And the idea, though, about, what is happening in this church, with the previous vicar, came out with what happened at my church that I was at, how sometimes the minister, something's going on with him and one of the congregations that's totally inappropriate. And so when someone new comes in, there's that trust is lost then. So I kind of had a look at that. And what happened in my church was the diocese didn't really look at, to help these people get past that. And that's something I had an opportunity to do in this book.
Yes.
Which was, really good. And so I really had to do some research to figure out, talk about forgiveness and what that looked like and how people might be feeling and how to get past what had happened and to learn to trust again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk a little bit more about the vicar himself in a minute. So what were some of the conflicts for Cynthia? Coming to that new place, sort of meeting new people. And at first she didn't seem sort of to be a big socialite.
Well, I think she was grieving. As you know, she's lost children, and we learn that, something traumatic happened to her. We find out later on, which I'll let you read to find out. And so, but there is some kind of relief too, hopefully, that when she gets to this new place, people are not going to know her as the woman who keeps losing children. Mm-hmm. And so, maybe she sees that as a fresh start. On her initial meeting, as you know, in the beginning of the book, is at a funeral. And so that brings back memories for her,
yes.
of what happened to her before she got there. So that's a bad start. And then have to meet all of these people in the congregation at the pub later, which is very difficult. Plus, as you know, one of the women there is very difficult. And it continues to be a difficulty to Cynthia later on because, in churches, there are often a hierarchy, I guess, people in control, and she was one of the leaders in the church. So she's kind of torn between, what she needs and trying to be a good support to her husband. And that's not going down very well. Her husband's supportive of her choices not to get too involved in the church. But the ladies of the congregation are not feeling, quite as kind about that and feeling that it's her job to get involved. So again, that's the kind of a 50s thing, that it's her job as well as her husband, but she's saying, no, like my husband is okay that I don't, but still she struggles with that. First, she can't have children, and then she's not involved, in his church. too much. As you know, she sings in the choir. That's as much as she felt that she could do. So there's a lot of guilt there because there's a lot of outside pressure coming into the story too. And she's trying to find herself, which many women are, because we spend our lives pleasing others all the time.
And she really struggles trying to sort of figure that out. And there's, because of this secret she's keeping from her husband, that sort of tarnishes her kind of moving forward with anything.
It really does. And that's the conflict, isn't it? You know, because it's the risk, you know, given the times, and knowing her husband wants a child, and even though he's talking about adoption, no, she keeps putting him off, and he thinks it's because of something else. But she's afraid to take that risk. They have a loving relationship, and she has a very supportive husband in other ways. But will he support her in her secret if he ever finds out about it? So is she willing to risk that? And you know what would happen? You know, she did tell him. So,
you know, as we're talking about this, I can't help thinking characters come alive, and it's almost like we're talking about real people.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's always such a great sort of conversation when you're talking about characters who have such meat on the bones that we talk about them as though we really know them.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so one of the things that she does is to get involved in a book club.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, you know, because she is writing herself, it's natural that, you know, she'd like books. And then when she meets Rachel, you know, Rachel also likes to read. And when they meet at Rachel's house and see the book, Jane Eyre, sitting on the table, and it starts a conversation. And Rachel's a librarian, so she knows a lot about those things. This idea of having a book club seems a great way to get make friends, really, in the community with like-minded women. And then I decided it would be really interesting that the books they choose would be books that would help women move forward, which, you know, I think was a nice touch on my part.
I thought it was too. And I thought this is a device.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, and as you know, it did help one woman in particular to make some huge changes going forward. And I think too, what's really great is like that's the power of books, isn't it? You know, just even through a fiction, instead of a how-to break away from your mother, you know, to read books about women. And I think any generation, in their small ways, they're pulling away, they're pushing that boundary a little bit further. And sometimes, and women tend to do this, they do it in a safe environment of other friendships.
And I think I found it sort of really interesting. And during that period, I'm sure it happened a lot, where Cordelia, the daughter, and Lavinia, the mother, that overbearing mother, there was a strange relationship that some mothers had with their daughters where they wanted to almost hold on to them with a stranglehold.
That's right. Well, Lavinia, as you know, her husband died, and so here she is alone. And so now she carries a daughter. And, you know, that need to want to hold on. And plus, Lavinia is a really strong personality and likes to be in control.
Yes.
So having a daughter there, she got control all the time.
Exactly.
You know, which is really nice. And it kind of validates her, I guess, you know. It's kind of interesting, too, about these characters because they were based on a couple of people I know. Particularly the part about how they dress the same. You know, even we got mother-daughter.
Yes.
And they dress the same. They look completely different, but they dress the same. And the question was, is she doing that because of, you know, her mother's coercing her to dress like that? Or it's just sort of a natural thing? And this is what happened with this mother-daughter thing. They knew who actually lived together.
Wow.
You couldn't tell. They look like sisters, right? So I thought, this is really interesting. Yeah, let's do this.
Because then you sort of ask, you know, is it the daughter trying to be like the mother, or is it the mother wanting that young, sort of vibrant, attitude, dress sense, whatever, of her younger daughter. So it's hard to tell sometimes sort of which way that relationship goes.
Yeah, that's all part of the control, I think, though, too, yeah. And so, but eventually she was able to break away from that, fortunately.
And when you find out, and I won't give it away.
Okay. Find out the truth about it.
Yes. It was, I must say, I didn't see it coming until almost at the page. And I thought, oh, wow, yes. I should have seen that.
Yeah. That kind of surprised me, too.
Yeah. Again, these characters take on their own essence and they sort of move in front of you.
I know. Yeah. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I agree. So I suppose we should talk about the vicar.
Jack. Yes.
What do you think of Jack?
Well, when I first wrote him, somebody didn't like him. They didn't think he was very nice. But I think he's very open-minded for his time period. He's very encouraging of his wife's writing and giving her time and not expecting her to get involved in the church. But they made that clear from the very beginning that wasn't going to happen, and he accepted that. But still, when it comes to the fact, about the secret that she has, is he going to be as encouraging? Because talking to Crystal, who is, has done some counseling, sometimes that's a deal breaker.
Right.
So I had to decide, what's he going to do? And he's a vicar too. Is he going to walk away? And another friend told me, no, he's not. So, okay, I'll work with that.
And it was pretty iffy.
Yeah.
And perhaps it always is iffy.
Absolutely.
Because it's quite a secret.
Yeah.
Especially when one is so committed one way and the other is committed the other.
Yes.
That's difficult.
Yes. Even in a great love, it can be a deal breaker. Even, I know, and Crystal told me that sometimes even people who love each other and have a great relationship, it can completely change things.
Can't get past it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, which I'm not going to mention, and money. Money often does a big separation thing when they can't agree if one's too spendthrift and the other's not, or that's an interesting dynamic between couples as well.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
So before we go any further, I bet people would like to hear you read.
Now, we're in the Lake District in a fictional place called Aldridge, and it's 1953. Why had she come to the funeral of a woman she didn't even know? Cynthia Logan trembled as she looked up at the giant oak standing watch over the deceased Mariah Burns. It was as though death itself had made sure she was delivered into its hands in a timely fashion. She stood apart from the mourners as the coffin was lowered into the ground. She had her own memories to contend with, memories of more than one tiny coffin being placed into a grave. Image that still haunted her. Guilt that would not relent its hold on her. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. A husband tossed a handful of dirt onto the coffin. The resolute thud made her jump with the finality of it. There was no coming back from death. Then she thought she knew only too well. Jack continued. And now we lay our sister to rest into your waiting arms, knowing she will at last be at peace with the heavenly angels. Amen. Cynthia shivered as the sun slid behind the church tower. She was glad she decided to wear her black wool suit to keep off the chill of the unpredictable spring weather. She had pulled her hair back into a French twist, wanting to make a good impression on Jack's new flock. He was the reason she was here. She took in the curly black hair and the open smile that invited people to share their confidences, an asset for a man of the cloth. With the funeral over, the mourners departed the graveyard through the wrought iron gate, most on their way to the coach and castle where refreshments awaited. The deceased daughter, Rachel Burns, lingered among the ancient headstones to offer a private farewell. Cynthia had no words to comfort to offer the lonely mourner, only tears that slid silently down her cheeks. God, would the pain of her own losses never end? Is there anything I can do? Jack asked Miss Burns. No, thank you, came the tearful reply. I just need a few minutes alone. Will I see you and your wife at the pub? She asked. Of course. I thought perhaps we'd escort you. Jack beckoned to Cynthia. Cynthia wiped her eyes and stepped toward the unusually tall woman. When introductions were made, she said, It's very nice to meet you, Miss Burns. I'm just sorry it had to be on such unfortunate circumstances. Please, call me Rachel. She turned her attention to the vicar. Thank you for your service today, Reverend. You did a splendid job on such short notice. I'm glad you're pleased, Miss Burns. However, we'll leave you till your valediction and fetch you shortly. Jack took Cynthia's hand, and they walked to the church so he could change out of his cassock.
It gives you, it kind of sets the scene for what transpires eventually.
Yes.
In this situation, often it can be just somebody misinterpreting a relationship between the vicar and another woman. And that's what happens to poor old Jack.
Yes, and I think that the person who had feelings for Jack was also in need. She was a needy woman, needy in the fact that, like, the man that she was supposed to marry had died in the war. It's common that, vicars get invited to people's houses for dinner. So, and sometimes when other people see things, they misinterpret it. And this particular church had good reason to, because the previous vicar had not been as circumspect as Jack turned out to be. So
and he got himself involved.
Pardon?
The previous vicar got himself too involved.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and because the church, so the congregation hadn't been tended to after what happened. There was a lot of pain that hadn't been dealt with there. So it was natural that there would be suspicion around that.
And even Cynthia at first had suspicions.
Yes. Well, she actually saw them together.
She saw them.
And she misinterpreted what was happening as well. But when she finally confronts her husband with it, he tells her nothing happened and she believed him because they have that kind of relationship. She trusted him and she chose to do that too. Yeah.
And the healing stones. That was very interesting. And the sort of ethereal atmosphere around those healing stones. What made you come up with that?
Well, when I created the town of Aldridge, I wanted to be in the Lake District, and I was thinking, Keswick is on Derwent Water, and right beside Keswick, there's a stone circle, Castlereagh Stone Circle. So I decided to, create my own little village of Aldridge, but I kept it in the same location. And I love stone circles, so I had to figure out a way to put them in there. So I started doing some reading about them. And in fact, my cousin in England, she sent me a link about the Lake District and about things that were happening in the Lake District. So I put a question on that. I asked them about if anybody had ever seen anything interesting happening at Castlereagh Stone Circle. And so apparently someone said that dogs go crazy there for some reason, which I thought was interesting. And then I did a little bit of reading, and somebody had actually seen some orbs, which is on the cover.
So tell us about the cover.
Can I show it? There's 3 little orbs on the cover of this book, and they're integral to the healing, and they're very significant to the story. Yeah. And so I had to figure out how to, because it had, as you say, an ethereal quality and magical properties in my mind, that I had to make that integral because there had to be something significant that would shift her direction.
Yes.
And this was really big,
Yes.
I think, and it did it.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a very clever
Thank you.
way to do that.
Yes.
And now, a friend of yours actually painted this cover?
She did, and it's funny. My friend's name is Samantha, and actually she gives me my pedicures and whatnot. And so I often talk about writing with her when she's giving me my pedicure. And she's actually writing a book of her own right now, too, Misty. And so she said one day when she was doing my pedicure, she said, "So what are you going to put on the cover of your new book?" And I hadn't really thought about it, but as soon as she asked me, something clicked. I said, "I want a stone circle on the cover of my book." Now, at this point, I had no idea how the stone circle was going to be integral to the meaning of the character. So anyway, at that time, we just started, Googling pictures, and we found these pictures. And so we made some little changes, and then we added the orbs to it. And right from the very beginning, I had no issues at all with what she was doing. Like I told her I wanted the grass to look really clumpy, and we, changed how the sky looked, and and had that one star had to be there. Yeah. It was amazing. She just did a phenomenal job, and I'm just absolutely thrilled with it.
I love that it's in the Lake District. I know we're almost out of time, but I wanted to tell you I spent a lot of time in the Lake District. So where can people buy your book?
Well, this one is definitely on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Directly.
Yeah.
Or, I've been doing a lot of venues too around. Most people can't get at this one. I've got one more venue, but that's going to be at the hospital in Chatham. So, and after that, I'm taking a little time off because I've done a lot of speaking, a lot of venues lately to promote my new book.
So, very briefly, are you working on something else?
I am.
Okay, you'll have to keep us in the loop.
Okay, yes, I will. Yeah, and basically, it's set in Newfoundland, and it's to do with the Viking site there.
Oh, well. This Newfoundlander is awfully happy. Good luck. I'll look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
And all the best with your book.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today. Many thanks to our guest, Gillian Andrews. Thanks to our Scribes and Songsters team, producer Brad Sweet, and technical producer and editor Gary Glass. Grateful thanks to Tony Toldo and the Toldo Foundation. Grateful thanks to Neil and Tina Quiring for their support, and thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon right back here on Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandal. Bye for now.